connection. Radyo Katipunan, down from the hill and down to the world. Radyo Katipunan, the voice of the Blue Eagle.
Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. The voice of the Blue Eagle, kami di mapipigil sa pagbabalitang tumpak at tama. Buhay atin mista, sa loob sa labas ng eskwela, ating ibibida lahat ng eskwela. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Katipunan. Kawal ni Ignacio, Katipunero sugo, todo sa kayod, punong at tulong. Lipad na Blue Eagle, galing giting at tigil, blue and white, one big fight. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan.
The voice of the Blue Radyo Katipunan.
Checking out the latest happenings in, around, and beyond Katipunan. This is the Katipunan Roundup.
Good day, Ateneans! Your friendly neighborhood Polly from the Lionsburgs is coming to town. From August 28 to September 8, the League of Independent Organizations invites you to Lions Rugby. Each participating organization under Lions will have the opportunity to promote themselves during this event, showcasing their causes, initiatives, and projects to students wishing to apply and join the Lions community. Go and do your own thing. Enter the Lionsburgs. Visit us online starting August 28 and at the Colaiko Pavilion from September 4 to 8. See you there.
The voice of the Blue Eagle. Radyo Katipunan, 87.9.
Susunod na ang Tatakalikasan sa Radyo Katipunan 87.9 FM.
Radyo, Katipunan.
Tara na't simulan ang inyong umaga sa mga magagandang refleksyon tungkol sa ating buhay at pananampalataya. Kasama sina Father J. Boy Gonzales at Father Nono Alfonso ng Kapisanan ni Jesus, Binibining Risa Singson Kaupeng ng Feast Magazine, Father Fiel Pareha mula sa Archdiocese ng San Fernando, Pampanga, at Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle. Dito sa Kapet Pandasal sa Radyo Katipunan 87.9 FM.
Ano ba yan? Gusto mong mag-move on pero ayaw mong magsara ng pinto. Magandang araw mga kaibigan. Magkapet pandasal muna po tayo. Ito po si Father Nono. Marami po sa atin may mga bagahe mula sa ating mga nakaraan. Dating karelasyon, dating buhay, dating problema. At madalas, dala-dala natin ang mga ito kahit sa kasalukuyan. Halimbawa, matagal ka nang iniwan ng boyfriend o girlfriend mo, 10 taon na, pero hanggang ngayon, nangangarap ka pa rin magkabalikan kayo. O kaya naman, matagal ka nang nasisante sa dream job mo, 7 taon na, pero hanggang ngayon, araw-araw mo pa rin pinapako ang sarili sa krus dahil sa mga pagkakamaling nagawa mo kaya't natanggal ka sa trabaho. Ano ba? Kaya nga raw, hindi tayo makapagbagong buhay. Paanong darating ang bagong buhay kung panay sulyap ka pa rin sa dati mong buhay? Parang yung kwento ng asawa ni Lot sa lumang tipan. Sinabihan sila ng anghel na lumikas mula sa Sodom dahil ito'y sisirain ng Diyos at bilin sa kanila, iwan ito ng tuluyan, wala nang balikan, wala nang lingon ng lingon. Subalit sa kanilang pag-alis, lumingon pabalik ang asawa ni Lot at ito'y naging rebulto ng asin. Simple ang aral. Upang di ka na matukso sa dating buhay, wala nang lingunan, wala nang balikan. Isara, ikandado ang pinto ng dati mong buhay upang makapasok sa pinto ng bago mong buhay. Amen.
Radyo, 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 Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan, radyo, 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 Katipunan, radyo, 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 Katipunan. Voice of the Blue Eagle, kami di mapipigil sa pagbabalitang tumpak at tama. Buhay at tenista, sa loob sa labas ng eskwela, ating ibibida lahat ng kwela. Radyo, 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 Katipunan, radyo, 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 Katipunan, radyo, radyo, Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan. Kawal ni Ignacio, Katipunero, sugod, todo sa kayod, dunong at tulog. Lipat na Blue Eagle, kaning giting nagigil. Blue and white, one big fight. Radyo, 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 Katipunan, radyo, 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 Katipunan, radyo, radyo, Katipunan, radyo, radyo, Katipunan, radyo, 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 Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan.
Lamig, init, ulan, hangin, kumakalingang kalikasan. Ating alagaan at ingatan. Kumusta na ang ating kalikasan? Pag-usapan natin ang kalagayan ng mundo at kung paano tayo makatutulong sa pagkalinga sa ating tahanan. Kasama sina Father J.M. Manzano ng Kapisanan ni Jesus at si Dr. Abercio V. Rotor. Ito ang Tatakalikasan sa Radyo Katipunan 87.9 FM.
Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat at welcome po muli sa ating programang Tatakalikasan. Magsimula po tayo sa isang panalangin. Sa ngalan ng Ama at ng Anak at ng Espiritu Santo. Amen. Mula sa awit ng Sanlinikha ni San Francisco de Assis. Purihin ka, puon, kinaate buwan at mga bituin. Hinugis sa langit, malinaw, marikit, may hiyas na angkin. Purihin ka, puon, sa kay kuya hangin, sa simoy at ihip. Maulap, tahimik, anumang panahon, napapalit-palit. Sa bigay mong buhay, sa mga nilikhay silang tagahatid. Panginoon, salamat po muli sa handog mong pagkakataong ito na kami ay makapag-usap, matalakay namin ang iba't ibang mga pamamaraan sa aming patuloy na pakikiisa sa aming inang kalikasan. Sa ngalan ng Ama at ng Anak at ng Espiritu Santo. Amen. Magtaka, matuto, makiisa, may utak at diwa ang kalikasan. Katipunang tahanan, katipunang tatak, kalikasan, radyo, tatak. So ito po muli ang inyong lingkod, Father J.M. Manzano of the Society of Jesus. At kasama ko po.
At nandito na naman po ako. Ako po si Emoy Rodolfo ng Department of Environmental Science dito po sa Ateneo. Magandang tanghali po sa inyong lahat.
Yan. At maulang umaga dito ngayon sa Tagudin, Ilocos Sur, my hometown. So nandito po ako sa probinsya, no? So may dalang ulan pa rin ang bagyong Guring dito.
Hana na yata to. Ang nag-iba ng
Hana na
pangalan.
ba?
Parang
Oo.
paikot-ikot eh.
Mm.
Anyway, so
Oo,
maulan din
kaya
dito, Father JM, maulan din sa
oo.
Maynila.
So, angkop na angkop pala yung pinili kong sipi mula sa prayer ni Saint Francis kasi papalit-palit, hindi lamang papalit-palit na panahon, papalit-palit na bagyo, papalit-palit na na panahong sitwasyon, no? Kondisyon. Okay, so
Oh,
ngayon ay special na special kasi napapanahon ng ating pag-uusapan. It's about disaster resilience. No? So ano nga ba itong disaster resilience na ito? At excited ako no sa episode na ito ka Emoy no kasi this is going to be my last before I take a leave from this program Tatakalikasan, and it's going to end with a bang no with our special guest no with our
aha.
very special guest no. She's a very sought after environmentalist, the personality, and she's been so busy, no? She's been going to different countries, no? Because of her heart, her great
Mm,
love for the environment. Kaya ka Emoy, no? I think you are in the
sige.
best position to
Opo.
introduce.
Opo.
Mhm.
Oo nga, naku, Father JM, iwan mo kami ng 6 na buwan, di bale, kami
Mhm.
munang bahala. At okay,
Mhm.
papakilala ko muna ang ating guest, ang makakakwentuhan po natin ngayon ay walang iba kundi si Dr. Emma Porio, no. Isa siyang professor sa Ateneo. Kasama ko din siya, no, sa Department of Environmental Science, at bukod doon, siya ay professor sa Department of Sociology and Anthropology. Tapos research fellow din siya sa Manila Observatory. At para mas maintindihan natin yung kahalagahan ng ginagawa ni Doc Emma, si Doc Emma yung nagbibigay ng kulay at pinapakita niya kung gaano kahalagang aralin ang tao at ang komunidad nang sa gayon ay maintindihan natin ang mga ah, ang kalikasan, no? Environmental science, and in the same way, ang mga disasters, mga hazards. So, marami ako natututunan kapag nakakasama ko sa trabaho si Doc Emma, at sigurado ako na marami po tayong matututunan ngayon at ma-inspire tayo sa mga kwento ni Doc Emma Porio. Doc Emma, marami pong salamat at welcome po sa Tatakalikasan.
Maraming salamat, Emoy. It's so nice to see you. And Father GM, and so nice to see you. I like your background in Tagodin. But what I'd like to say is that um, why am I so committed to the environment? Because my parents, no, we were young, and I remember my parents, and one Saturday, my elder brothers and sisters will come from the city, and we have all this breakfast. And my father and mother pointed to the fruit trees outside and the coconuts especially, and says, "Oy, yung mga kahoy dyan, mga fruit trees, mabubuhay yan, wala tayo. Pero tayo, hindi tayo mabubuhay pag wala yung kalikasan dyan sa And I really remember that, and I think it stayed with me. And of course, when I but I, so in when I was pursuing my graduate studies, I was doing political economy and environment and reforms, no. But when I came back to Ateneo and the IPC, where I was research associate before, the call for the time, well, the call for social reforms. And so Romana Pahilanga de los Reyes, who was the director at the time, told me, "Oh, we should study this street children." UNICEF asked us, "Bakit bang marami tayong street children? Bakit ba ano nangyayari?" Ganon. So in the 1990s, I was studying street children and the city, social housing, gender and women. Kasi yun sila ang pinaka-vulnerable, no? Na mga tao sa syudad. So, ang tanong natin, umuunlad ang syudad. Umuunlad ba ang mga karaniwang tao? Hindi, sila ang nagsasuffer, no? For example, in climate change, no? We always say the poor have the least contribution to the greenhouse gas emissions, but they suffer the brunt of it. And that's why, I studied all this, when we say vulnerability. Emoy was talking about, my being recruited to Manila Observatory by then the director, Maria Antonia Yolo Loizaga. And the reason I was recruited is because one time I think Father Balchan went to Manila Observatory and said, "Can you take me to the urban poor communities you're working?" And Tony says, "Urban poor, you go to Emma Porio there in the part of Socioanthro because I've been doing work." In fact, I got into climate change because I was doing all these studies, no? Like I did studies on the impact of how the displacement, no, of these big, large projects like South Reclamation Project in Cebu, the Batangas port, and how it displaced a lot of the workers. And really, I got into it and I got recruited. And I remember in 2006, 2007, Japan Bank was doing studies on coastal megacities and its climate impacts. And I was asked by Japan Bank and World Bank and Ateneo and also the sociology and anthropology is really focused on vulnerability. And I was asked, what is the impacts? Ano ba ang epekto ng pagbabaha, all these climate effects on the poor? And that is when 2007, 2008, I did a survey of over 300 households in 3 flood basins and 25 urban poor communities in the 3 flood basins. Pasig Marikina, West Mangahan, and Kamanava. And I found really that, the poor suffer a lot. Every flooding, they lose a lot in terms of, losses to their livelihood. They pay 4 times more in terms of transportation. Their children lose, they cannot go to school. All these things, and they spend more in terms of food and cleaning like that. And so that was a defining moment, and I reported that. And in fact, Emoy, my article, Vulnerability, Adaptation, and Resilience of Marginal Riverine Households in Metro Manila, won the Outstanding Scholarly Work Award, Most Social Impact. And it's also one of the most highly cited in the ResearchGate. And I realized it's because it has all the keywords: vulnerability, adaptation, resilience to climate change effects among marginal riverine households in Metro Manila. So that was a defining moment. And I really think that change, that changed really my trajectory in terms of my focus on really vulnerability, social vulnerability of the poor, and what can we do, no? Because di ba, Emoy, ang study sa Manila Observatory are all these climate projections.
Yes, ma'am.
All
Puro,
this
puro
climate
mas science tayo eh. Kami pala. Mas science. Kayo nagbibigay
climate
ng
projections,
puso at
all these models. That's why I told Father Jet and Doc Faye, I said, kailangan i-translate natin itong mga modelo. Ano bang ibig sabihin yan? O kung signal number 2, signal number 3, anong ibig sabihin doon? Anong gagawin nila? Ganun. So, I think, Emma, I want to tell you that because of that, sa SICAR, I created a professorial chair for Father Jet Villarin. Father Jet Villarin professorial chair in climate and society. Because I really want to connect climate science and what is the meaning of that to the people, especially the poor and vulnerable, di ba? Di ba sa Laudato Si, the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor. And I think we as, I know physical scientists do not consider as social scientists as scientists, but I always believe that the physical vulnerability. So, for example, flooding. Alam natin kung ano. One of the things that I really appreciate, my work with Manila Observatory, especially the late Gemma Narisma. If you remember, Gemma Narisma did the River Elevation Index of Metro Manila. Then she overlaid all the 25 urban poor communities where they are. And you can see that in the overlay, the poor are there in swampy areas and river lines because that's the only place that they can live In fact, my studies show that in the 3 flood basins, Kamanava, West Manggahan, and Marikina flood, Pasig Marikina, the migrants in West Manggahan who lived on those swampy areas were really the poorest. Imagine when they get sick, they will just rest because they do not have connections to the barangay to go to the health center, nor do they have money. So they were the poorest. And I really concluded that the poor become poorer with each flooding, you know? And I think you can also see that in our studies. Maharabago and the team of the Manila Observatory, we did looking at flooding and typhoons, and you'll see that the informal households always lose more. So klaro, no? I always say, klaro na sa pag-aaral ng klima at epekto ng klima sa mga tao, kailangan pagbigyan talaga nating pansin ang mga mahihinang sektor ng sosyedad. So these are the women, children, elderly, PWDs, LBQTIs, and the like, which I hope if you see, I sent you our website, no? The resilience-toolkit.ph, because we really want Emoy for the local planning to be science-based, that they do a climate disaster risk assessment, which will give you a risk profile, no? Sino ba ang nakalantad dyan sa baha? Sino bang may mga kahinaan? At ano ba ang kapasidad nila? And that is where you do your investment to reduce their exposure and vulnerability to flooding, vulnerability to sea level rise and subsidence. Then you should know that. Maybe I've talked so much. You asked me.
Nako, hindi. Sarap nga makinig sa inyo, Doc Emma. Alam mo, Father JM, marami talagang natutunan yan kaya na Doc Emma. Kasi, like yun nga, kapag purely physical science, kumisan hindi kagad nakikita yung connection sa tao. Diba?
Oo.
Kita nyo, no, sa pakikinig natin kay Doc Emma, parang pinakita niya na ang kalikasan, ang hazards, ang climate change, laging tutumbok pa rin doon sa epekto nito sa tao. Two ways, di ba? Anong ginagawa ng tao na nakakapekto sa kalikasan at sa pagbabago ng klima. Pero nandun pa rin yung ano magiging epekto nito sa tao at doon sa pinaka-vulnerable. No, Father JM, parang ganda ng mga binahagi ni Doc Emma. Ikaw, Father,
Ayan. Oo.
masasabi mo?
Gusto ko lang na makinig kay Doc Emma kasi yung mga gusto kong itatanong ay nababanggit na niya, and what I like the most is what you said about the two aspects as just one, no? The cry of the poor and the cry of the earth, the cry of Sister Earth. At no wonder bukang bibig nyo po na sa inyong pangangalaga, sa inyong mga advokasya is really pointed towards taking care of our vulnerable sectors, and then most especially the women, the poor people, no, the PWDs, the elderly, at maganda po yung I'm just went through these many advocacies that you have, Doc Emma. You precede, kumbaga, parang you precede everything, no, that are now being talked about these days. Kaya we owe so much to people like you, no? We are now having a kind of system, a science-based kind of treating the disaster problems, all of these issues that we have because of what you have done several decades ago. So we are just so thankful to you, Doc Emma, no? And yung Emoy, no, talagang sa pagsasalita ni Doc Emma ay parang punong-puno ng yung energy.
Yes.
Energy.
Very passionate si Doc Emma.
Yes, very passionate ba? Parang wow. Sana marami pang ihatid ng Panginoon na katulad niya.
Tsaka isang maganda, Father JN, di ba? Parang dito nakikita yung kahalagahan ng mga lay partners ng mga Jesuits at ng Ateneo na parang sinusunod o yung parang ginagawa yung paanyaya ni San Ignacio, di ba? Alam natin, San Ignacio noon, nung nabubuhay siya, saan siya tatambay? Sa mga ospital, sa mga mahihirap, sa mga kababaihan
Sa mga
na
daan.
di ba? So parang yung merong mga lay partners ang kapisanan ni Jesus, no? Ang Jesuits na ginagawa yung sinimulan ni Ignacio ay malaking bagay, Father JM. Al-
Iyan, no?
Father JM and Father Emo,
nag,
Father na
naging pa
Father na tuloy si
hindi
Father.
hindi ako
No,
father.
ang gusto ko lang ano na yung lesson ko in doing these studies, no? And I put that into my classes. I created, the Master of Disaster Risk and Resilience at saka yung sa klase ko ng Cities and Society, I retweaked it to focus on the impacts of climate disasters, humanitarian action, and development. Kasi alam mo, Father GM, most of our students and Filipinos in general do not really have a connectedness to the environment sa paligid nila. So in fact sa klase ko, hindi before I did the survey of the 3 flood basins, in my class, I was not talking about, environmental vulnerability and things. But after that, we had, because Emoy, remember, we have a class on environment, society, and culture.
Yes, ma'am.
And really, I find that the average Atenean, our students natin, hindi nila alam we're living in 3 flood basins. Kaya, bahaan talaga tayo, and then mag-intensify pa yun, no? Yung mga drainage systems that are not working, our infrastructure that is not well calibrated and planned, and also we build in places which should not be built, no? So for example, after Ondoy, remember sila Ando Siringan, who was recruited by Tony Yolo Loizaga to do the survey of the Manila, from the headwaters in Marikina, Pasig, down to the Manila Bay. Kasi remember, after sa Ondoy, sabi noong DPWH, the clogging of the informal settlers are causing the floods. So the walk, binabaybay nila yung Pasig River from Marikina, Pasig down to the bay, and guess what? Their documentation showed that 70% of the clogging is caused by formally permitted structures. So para sa akin, that's really where science can prove you from your conventional understanding. Kasi they blame, no? They blame the poor for these problems when actually, all of us. In fact, I remember I was teaching a course one time on cities on society, and I was telling my class, I was inspired by Father Noel Vasquez, who said na he wishes he had a magic wand to make some people disappear. So I told my class, imagine if we have a magic wand, and I'll say, all drivers, all cooks, all domestic helpers, all service workers disappear. O ano mangyari sa syudad? Ano mangyari sa atin? And I hope my students realize that, living in the cities is very we have to collaborate because each fulfill a role, no? So and I really find as I was saying, I was interviewed once by the International Sociological Association in Berkeley, and I was saying to them that, before my study of the 3 flood basins, I never included the ecological and, the physical environment of the city and how it shapes people's lives. So if you disaggregate, kung tingnan mo, sayang, we have that map, no? Celine made that map of Metro Manila. Well, she titled it Shifting Patterns of Informality and Vulnerability. And you will see, based on the maps, 1990, 1995, medyo green pa ang Manila, no? 2010 na mapa, 2015, medyo pumupula na, yung mga informal settlers, ganon. Why? Kasi the informal settlers follow where the job is. Kaya doon sila sabi, nagsasquat. Actually, without those people, a lot of our, life cannot proceed, di ba? Sabi ko sa mga estudyante ko, sino mag-drive sa inyo? Nabahaan yung driver mo, hindi makapasok. Yung secretary mo, kagaya ngayon, the Emoy, di ba, sa environmental science, saying na since those faculty and secretaries are living in flood-prone areas, so they don't have to report. So flooding, which is one of the major, one of the major ways that we really experience ang impact ng pag-iiba ng klima, no? So I think para sa akin, Father JM, mahalaga na yung sektor, may estudyante natin, yung kaalaman tungkol sa klima. That's why, tungkol sa kalikasan. That's why ako sa klase ko, my first 2 exercise is, number 1, compute your carbon and water footprint. And then after that, ikamparar mo ang carbon and water footprint mo sa ibang klaseng tao. And then, pangatlo, anong gagawin mo para hindi ka mag-waste ng tubig, hindi ka at saka sabi ko, for example, my students, I tell them, do you know that using the shower use much water than the tabo? So you will see that our ancestors were more sustainable in their practices, no? And then after that, I tell them, kailangan pag-isipan ninyo paano magbawas yung footprint mo, di ba? And then ang pangalawang exercise, I let them do a 1-month tracking of their waste, plastic waste, biodegradable, and paper. Then pinapa-compute ko yan, pinapa-weigh ko yan. Sila, ang pamilya. And then pinareport ko rin sila, paano ninyo din-dispose? Paano nyo? So, I think what I'm basically saying is, para itong mga kaalaman, malaman natin kung ano ba ang role natin in terms of heating up the earth because of our consumption. What Ulrich Beck, the German sociologist, we are creating our modern risks because of our consumption-driven life. We extract so much from the environment. In fact, one study said that at the rate now, Father JM and Emoy, we are consuming the Earth's resources, we need 3 Earths to sustain our lifestyle. I think we're just eating too much meat, eating too much and wasting them. So I always tell them, remember, food waste generates 30 times methane. So para sa akin, Father Jem and Emoy, I think back to common sense, we have to ask ourselves, what are we doing ba? Are we heating the earth or cooling the earth in our activities? And I always tell them in the same way, Father Jem, I tell my students, it takes talent. It doesn't take talent to complain. But it takes talent to provide an alternative solutions or alternative ways of thinking and doing. That's why if you look at the tagline of our Master Disaster Risk Resilience Emoy, problem focused, solutions driven with the systems lens. And I tell this, MDRR people and all these people na ground na, we have to look at a systems, We cannot, yung individual approach or, micro level approach, kailangan mag-connecta yon, yung initiatives on the ground, initiatives at the micro level, at individual, family, and community, link it to institutional initiatives or MESO, institutional organizational initiatives, meso level, then to macro level in terms of policies and programs of the government, of the private sector, and the like. Okay, so I just want to say, living in this earth, it can become new with our initiatives. It can become greener if we are conscious of our contribution to the problem and our contribution to making it greener, making it more livable, make it sustainable and the like. Yun lang, and magsimula. Sabi ko, simula lang tayo sa mga tinuturo natin. Simula tayo sa tinuturo at saka, ano bang ibig sabihin niya sa everyday practice? I always tell them, you know, everybody's mouthing now resilience. But I think July 31 is the the culmination of the National Disaster Resilience Month. And we had a panel and they're asking, what is resilience? And I said, resilience is everyday work. Because what is resilience? Resilience is the ability of the self, the system, to absorb the shock, the effects of the shock, to resist the effects of the shock, and then to transform our ways of doing and thinking so that with the changing, then we can be prepared. We can be resilient. Every day is a preparedness. And that's why I always tell them, my lesson of Odette, you know, I come from Cebu, Father JM and Emoy. My lesson of Odette was, imagine Cebu is one of the richest province and richest city. But after 3 days, one, there were long lines. The food in the groceries naubos na after 3-4 days. And then, so long line for ayuda, for food, long line for the gasoline, and long line for water. Kasi water in Cebu is, you know, electricity driven, pump, energy. But it told me na kailangan yung isang dimension Emoy sa resilience, di ba? 4 dimensions resilience, robustness of the system, rapidity to response, and redundancy. The third is redundancy. I realized that we have to be redundant in that system. Hindi dapat isa lang sa yung tubig mo pinapump ng electricity. But like for example, some parts of Cebu, gravity driven. And so I was told by one person from the north that naawa sila sa taga-syudad. Dinalhan nila ng tubig, no, in truck, in the barrels. At sabi nung sabi nung principal sa isang sa Katipunan National High, sabi niya, itong mga taga-syudad, hindi man lang isauli yung namin, yung dinadalahan namin. Yung parang ang tingin nila, nagsisilbi kami, nagtulong kami. So it tells me also the connectedness and collaborativeness between rural and urban. I teach urban sociology. That's why I always say na the city does not appreciate what the countryside does. The city that supplies the food and the like. I mean, we saw that in in COVID. Sa COVID, kamahal ng mga mga fruits and vegetables. But because of the cut of supply, and that's why it led Quezon City to have, to distribute seeds, and we have food gardens. Quezon City now has I understand over 700 food gardens, and we should do that, no? So what I'm saying is that we should learn from our lessons, no? About, ako naisip ko, yung rain collecting, dapat babalik na tayo dyan. A lot of the rain just go and flood. So I'm thinking that, when Emoy, I always say, what Odette told me is the fuse nexus. A community or a people can be prepared if you have food, you have energy, and you have water, plus communication. Yun na ang namin ngayon, Emoy, I'm working with the Ateneo Innovation Center on doing anticipatory technologies for climate and disaster resilience. So parang, Father JM, I'm talking so much, but basically my point is, dapat, as I always say in my talks with the local government, ano ba tayo? 20 typhoons visit us. Bakit hindi nag-iiba ang response natin? Ganon palagi. Darating ang bagyo, tatanungin ng LGU, handa na ba kayo? Oo. Hindi ipakita itong mga plastic, no? Plastic bags of rice, sardines, and noodles, whatever, no? So parang sabi ko I was talking to a group, I was talking to the group of LGUs, and I said, para tayong si Sisyphus. When we push the rock up, and then typhoon comes, the rock comes down, and then push up again. Sabi ko, kailangan i-change natin ito, ang narrative ng existence natin. That's why ako ngayon, Father GM, I always tell people, resilience is everyday work. Disaster preparedness is everyday work. Magtanim, your food, your water, and all this. So, bawat tayo, we cannot be talking about resilience or disaster preparedness when we continue wasting food. We continue throwing our to the ground, no, to our waste, no. We like, but I would say, Father JM, you know, I was in Bago City recently, and I was evaluating their integrated resource management. I was so happy because, you know, they are into zero waste. And just like when I was in the National Social Science Congress at Dumaguete is a zero waste city, and so is Siquijor. So it can be done, no? It can be done that we can become zero waste, so we do not pollute the environment. I remember always, diba, Father, anong sinasabi ni Pope Francis? This is the only home that we have been gifted, no? These are gifts from God. Everything on this earth. But what have we done with it? We have polluted it. And so I feel that we have to change. Now, we have to green it. We have to clean it, green it, make it productive, make it resourceful, and make it resilient and become sustainable, di ba? And imagine, inisip ko, sa Pilipinas, 120 million na daw tayo. Imagine, or it just say, I always say in Galing Pook, no? If half of the LGUs in the country can be Galing Pookable, no? Then our lives would change. So it's a total system change, Father JM and Father Emoy. I think we have so many initiatives on the ground, but we have to connect. I really say now, collaboration, cooperation is what will save us. And to realize that, you know, we are all creatures of God, and we're just passing through. We do not know. In fact, Father GM and Emoy, my prayer always, oh Lord, hindi ko alam kung kailan mo ako kukunin. Pero samantalang buhay pa ako, just give me the energy and give me the wisdom to which of those I should do, no? So, I wish, you know, I really feel that Laudato Si is one of the greatest document of our time. Kung susundin lang natin, basahin lang natin isang linya, and then ididibdib natin, siguro maiba ang pananaw natin, maiba ang pagtingin natin sa kalikasan, maiba ang tingin natin sa iba-ibang sektor ng sosyedad that make up a well-functioning society, di ba? There was a line that struck me in Laudato Si na sinabi ni Pope Francis, what is the meaning of your life? Kayo lahat kini-create ko kayo, no? And you must take care of all my creations, di ba? Di ba, Father Jem and Emoy, napaka-powerful ng document na yon. And sana, bawat isa, dibdibin. Dahil sandali, hindi natin alam, we're just passing through, di ba? But a lot of people get to attach to material things. You know, what I say, I tell my students, you know, you worry so much about what people think of you, but listen to you. 90% or 99% you're thinking about yourself. So ganun din yung iba. But I'm telling my students, you think about yourself, your family and community, what you can contribute, and, you know, in terms of possibilities of a better way of doing things, rather than what can I get, what can I do to to be, to be looked at as highly successful, very great person. I wish Father JM ma-realize ng mga tao na ano, hindi yan importante. Actually, sabi ko the other day sa Grab driver, naintindihan ko na ngayon why Oscar Wilde said, youth is wasted on the young. Kasi ako, naisip ko, sana alam ko ito lahat ngayon. Ako ngayon, Father Jim, wala na akong pakialam. I just do what I think we should do that will nurture the environment. Of course, it nurtures yourself. And it nurtures a relationship that is collaborative. We're united in terms of,
Amen.
nurturing the earth, and nurturing ourselves means nurturing. Because if you have to be true to yourself,
Yes.
you listen really to your heart and to your mind. I
Mhm.
really believe that God has imprinted in it the desire to live together well, and to preserve a good earth, diba?
Mhm. Yeah. Yes, Doc Emma, no? Soon it's going to be Teachers Month, and I like listening to you, Doc Emma, especially to people like you, kasi your action speaks louder, no? All the time. So, and that's the best way to teach somebody, people like us, no? Including myself, no? So that's why when you said about Sisyphus, tinamaan ako doon eh. It works both ways, no? The things, it could be negative, but then one time I was, kasi I have my own advocacies, Doc Emma, no? Like, I stopped drinking soft drinks na, no? Just to lessen the wastage of plastics, no? Since
I
2016, I stopped drinking soft drinks. Pero Doc Emma, may nagsabi sa akin, no? Do you think that action, that gesture of yours is going to change the world? It's a Sisyphean activity. No, it's not going to
It will
change the
change
world.
your
And
body.
yeah, but you know what I responded to that person, Doc Emma? Sinabi
Oh,
kong ganyan, hindi man ito makakabago sa mundo, but it's changing me. It
yes.
changed me.
And
And that's all that matters.
I think I really like that because it summarizes what they say. Be the change that you want to be. So ako, I make a joke. I do not eat anything with legs except when I go to Cebu and Sisi and Lechon. And then the other thing also, I am with you. I really have stopped, drinking processed drinks. Just, like this morning, just lemon with water and like that, calamansi, whatever. And processed drinks. I tell people, you know what is heating the earth? It's really all this transporting, processing, production of all this food. So, naisip ko, sana, people would find, I mean, I do understand the business, no? The people were telling me, oh, kung ganon, di wala ng business ang mga soft drinks. No, I think we can, create alternative, more healthy drinks. Kasi it's really the sugar, di ba, Father Jam? They were saying na in one bottle of this popular soft drink, there's 15 teaspoons of sugar. And sugar is really deadly, di ba? So, para sa akin, we just, create more healthy options, di ba? Yung parang, when you take about change, no? At the micro, meso, and macro level, and I always say, sa, the theory of transformation, I always say, what are the conditions for systems change, no? For system change, you have to have number 3, the first 3. You must have the policies, you must have the practices, and the resource flows, no? Anchored on the social relationships, hierarchy of relationships, anchored on connections and mental set. So para sa akin, Father Jim, I think you can start small, but the multiplier effect would be higher if people realize that, it's much better to live in a clean and healthy environment. Like, I'm really happy with the Ateneo Wild, no, and the Ateneo Green. I always tell people, oh, itong Ateneo at saka UP, it's an endangered space. Kasi tayo na lang ang may mga greenery, and I really think that very important yung preserving the greenery in Ateneo kasi there in Katipunan we have, 'di ba, Emoy? We have all this the air quality in Katipunan is not very good, 'di ba? I'm sure OB and James will tell you about how toxic the air in Katipunan, especially during traffic. So thank you, Father GM. I think oh my God, the
Okay
hour
lang.
passed so much. I didn't realize it.
Okay
Sorry,
lang
Father
yun,
GM,
ma'am.
I talk so much.
Marami naman kaming natutunan, lalo na ako, ang napulot ko doon sa sinabi ni Doc Emma, Father JM, yung interconnectedness, yung disconnectedness natin sa kalikasan at sa bawat isa. Kasi yun din yung na-bring up last time, di ba? Alala mo nung kay Ma'am Candy Hidalgo doon sa PMPI, parang punot dulo ng problema natin yan. Kasi parang disconnected tayo sa kalikasan at sa isa't isa. At yun din ang kagandahan na siguro yung sa sharing yung dalawa, parang makikita natin kung konektado na talaga tayo sa isa't isa at sa kalikasan ay kung ah, handa tayong magbago sa ating sarili. Kahit yung maliliit, no? Parang yun yung measure. If you're willing to make small changes and then be the change. Sabi nga ni Doc Emma, no, that you want to be. Sisigundahan ko pa rin na ang ganda ng Laudato Si, no? Dahil itong parang sa Laudato Si, sama-sama lahat, no? Parang systems thinking basically, hindi hiwalay ang spiritualidad, hindi hiwalay ang
Magkakabit-kabit ang
ecological
buhay natin,
studies,
di ba?
totoo, kakabit-kabit. Kasama ang ekonomiya, kasama ang kalikasan, kasama ang
Ang
lahat ng
politika.
aspeto. Politika kasama. No? At yun nga, at ang pinaka-gauge ay paano natin mapapangalagaan ang ating kalikasan at ang isa't isa. Yun lang
Yeah.
siguro. No?
Yan, the great value kung bakit kailangan nating makiisa, no, sa bawat uh, mga environmentalist. Kasi for me, I'm drawing so much inspiration. There are times, just to tell you honestly, there are times that I want to give up, no? All of these small things that I do, no? It's so tempting at times. But, I get renewed inspiration from people like Doc Emma, when you get to see somebody, no, na merong advocacy, no matter how little that one is, and when you get connected and you get to share your own experiences, all the more that you are rejuvenated. So that's one importance of being sustained as a network, of environmentalists, kasi mauubos tayo no, you will get tired. It's really a Sisyphean activity. But again, to just keep on working for it.
Father JM and Emoy. You know what I tell my students now? Living in this earth and living in this environment, we must have persistence to the highest degree. And I always tell, that's what PhD is. We must have a PhD in living life, a PhD in working with and for the environment and the people. Persistence, patience, and the idea that, we are all creatures of God, and we are gifted with this so that we can become a better person. I always tell people, yung mga problemang yan, mga challenges, those are ways that to polish our soul. So persistence means that you have to be patient and you have to be always remember that, even though it took God 7 days to create the earth, it takes several lifetimes for some of these civilizations to be made and also to be destroyed. So ganon din yun, Father JM. I think we have to be persistent in asserting the values of co-creation, collaboration, and really by doing so, we can create a sustainable, resilient, inclusive. I mean, another thing that I think now is that all these typhoons and all this modernization of cities, they are creating large gaps between those who have better resources and those who don't have. And I really think that in fact, in my talk, I'm writing a paper now on well-being statistics, Father, because government never, took at, the well-being of its people. So I like that. So and now, Father, I try to encourage, inspire myself by looking at possible things. So I am saying that, we have to look at the well-being of and you can look at that in terms of looking at our statistics. So I'm presenting in Korea my analysis of social vulnerability, how you can, distribute vulnerability and exposure of people across space and by categories. So I think we must always go, Father JM and Emoy, into the side of hope and possibility. I always say that, sabi ng nanay ko, habang may buhay, may hanap buhay. Di ba? Habang may buhay, may pag-asa na mabuhay. Di ba? And I think it's that, it's that commitment to becoming, I always say, sana Lord, when I'm facing there, I am polished enough, I'm worthy. I always say, we should work towards being worthy to see God. Because I believe, hindi ka ba mahiya? Pupunta ka doon, hindi mo na-polish yung soul mo, di ba? I mean, I think that's our job. To polish our soul is also to be a co-creator and to be a good child of God and a good steward of the resources He has gifted us. No?
Ako, ang dami natin natutunan kay Doc Emma. Huwag ka mag-alala, Father JM, imbitahin natin ulit si Doc Emma. No? Habang
Yes.
Ang
iingitin ka
suggestion
namin, pag
ko,
wala ka, imbitahin natin.
ang
ulit
suggestion
sa
ko,
oras natin.
next time, imbitahin din natin yung mga partners natin on
Sige
the
po.
ground.
Yeah.
Sila
Sige, Doc Emma.
Kanoli,
Apo.
sila mga kababaihan sa
Yeah.
sa Disiplina Bignay, sila Kanoli sa Banaba,
Sige po.
sa Bukludao, no?
Okay. Sige, Doc Emma. I-schedule po natin yan.
Sorry ha, masyado ako
Oy,
madada.
okay lang po. Father.
Oh, yeah. So I'm just so happy, no? Yes, I end my stint temporarily sa Tatakalikasan with a big bang from Doc Emma's big heart, no? Doc Emma's big heart, no? So marami akong natutunan, no? And marami akong mababaon, no? And of course, with a promise to pray for you, to keep you in prayers, especially for us. We are going through our tertianship and we will undergo once again our 30-day long retreat. So mahaba-habang pagdadasal para sa ating inang kalikasan at para sa bawat isa sa atin, especially the vulnerable sectors. Okay, so maraming salamat sa ating mga taga-subaybay. Salamat kay Justin at saka kay Teo at kay Doc Abe. Wala silang kuryente sa San Vicente, Ilocos Sur ngayon, kaya hindi siya nakasama, but he'll be back next Thursday. So salamat again, Doc Emma.
Regards kay Father Nono and Father JM, we have lots of galing po of projects in the north. Let's talk about it.
Wow.
Yeah. Sa Tago din. At saka, like I remember, we awarded a group of farmers who were doing yung impounding water. Impounding water so that, it during flood, it lessens the flood. And then during drought, it's their source of water for their farms and like that. Yeah. Anyway, mag-usap tayo after this.
Yes.
Let's see how we can so si Emoy also, I want our student to finish and
Sige po Doc Emma. Okay?
Okay. So magtatapos na po tayo. Magtaka, matuto, makiisa. May puso at utak ang kalikasan. Katipunang tahanan, katipunang tatak kalikasan. Radyo, tatak. Salamat po.
Salamat.
Lamig, init, ulan, hangin, kumakalingang kalikasan. ating alagaan at ingatan. Kumusta na ang ating kalikasan? Pag-usapan natin ang kalagayan ng mundo at kung paano tayo makatutulong sa pagkalinga sa ating tahanan. Kasama sina Father J.M. Manzano ng Kapisanan ni Jesus at si Dr. Abelcio V. Rotor. Ito ang Tatakalikasan sa Radyo Katipunan 87.9 FM.